Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about investments in the United States. A few days ago, for the first time, I bought ETF shares in the stock market of the United States. People may ask, you have invested in real estate for years. Why now do you turn to another way of investment? Now I will talk about why I did a change. In the United States, you can't only rely on a job for money. You must make investments in order to make your income more profitable. So you should put some of your money to make investments. I was working in Shanghai Nanking Road for 20 years. When I was working in the famous boutique as a salesman, a few masters of mine had been working in Shanghai Nanking Road almost for their whole lifetime. They were very wealthy and had several tens of thousands of Chinese dollars in banks. But I earned only 20 to 30 Chinese dollars a month in that time. And they always say, labor makes money difficultly, but money makes money easily. And they also said industrial is not as good as commerce. Commerce is not as good as investment. They had made some investments in old Shanghai and accumulated their wealth. I used to invest houses. My wife Val as well invested in the stock market. Her grandfather bought a lot of stocks. So there are some people have good marriages and then they lead comfortable lives. I bought houses for rent in the past. That is a kind of investment. You cannot buy a house in better location for rental. Location. That is the most important condition for house to buy for rental. If a house you buy in a very bad district, your tenants are also very poor. They may miss rental payments and also damage your house. During 2009, I had a Malaysian man as my tenant in my house, and he told me that he had a house downtown. I wonder, why do you live here when you own a house? He lived in Flushing, New York City. His friend said that the housing market in this area was very cheap. He did not ask a house agent for help and unwittingly bought a house in downtown of the city in Massachusetts. I also visited his house and it was even better than mine. But it was located in a crime-riddled area. He was very nervous to live there. So he moved to my house and was ready to sell the house. If you invest in a better area, your investment in the house will sometimes go down the drain. He sold his house at last and lost a lot of money. But we cannot buy a too expensive house for rental. For example, my wife and I live in an expensive area. The average household income is more than 100,000 a year. we pay a high property tax compared to my houses in Massachusetts. Living expenses are higher, so tenants who live here would need to pay a very high rent. Such kind of tenants are very difficult for you to find. If they are rich, they would not rent your bedrooms. They may buy a house instead. All my neighbors own their own houses and don't rent out bedrooms. Generally, you should buy an old house at a median price, then renovate it by yourself. The old house would appreciate after that. If you ask others to fix it, you will not make big money because American labor is very expensive. The two houses I bought were basically fixed by myself. A toilet cost $100, but if you ask someone to install a new toilet, it will cost more than $100 for labor. A low-E window costs about $180. If you ask someone to put it in, you may pay labor more than $100. Shanghai, China is very different from the United States. My brother and sister in Shanghai always ask patient workers to do chores in the errands. They just call for the present workers and they would come immediately to help them buy vegetables and food or to clean their houses. Peasant workers in Chinese cities are very cheap compared with American. In the United States, the labor costs the same price and there are no any difference between peasant workers and the city workers. I'm older now and retired. I don't want to fix an older house again because fix a house is a very exhausting work. This is the first reason why I don't want to invest in a house here in the United States. The second reason is that the house price is high now in the United States. My neighbors who bought houses in 2007 at a high price just sold their houses because their houses price was up in value. My two houses price for the past decade has risen, but now the value has leveled out. We must watchfully know this phenomenon. The time to buy a house is very important. The year between 2007 and 2009 was very different about house price. When COVID-19 became a pandemic in the United States, the stock has dropped down much. Even though most of stocks rallied again, but the stock index still hasn't totally reached the highest point of past. I invested ETF for a long-term investment. If you are ready to buy stocks for short-term, just 1 or 2 years, you may choose a couple of stocks for gambling. If the stock's price soar, you would be rich. Oppositely, you would lose your money. The risk is relatively high. The ETF, especially index ETF, are relatively stable. Some ETF stocks, such as SPY, IVV, VOO, are very close to American Dow Jones Index. The IVV and the VOO I bought a few days ago belong to the larger cap stocks index ETF. In the United States, 92% of the fund brokers, when they operate funds, cannot win over the larger cap stocks markets index. Only 8% fund brokers in the United States can win the larger cap market index. So I don't need to buy some funds blocks. The ETF stocks I just bought have 6% or 10% of annual revenue. If you keep this investment for 3 to 5 years or even longer than 10 years, you will get a very high income from it when you sell it. I have put a lot of cash in the bank 3 to 4 months, and the interest from the cash is only a few dollars. Basically, there is almost no interest. It is a very stupid act to keep cash in a bank in the United States. This is also the second passive income I have chosen. The stocks in the United States now still have room to grow, which is why I choose to buy the stocks. Alright, thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.